What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Love and Marriage Detroit Season 1 Reunion Part 2. Okay, so the season is finally over. Thank God. It wasn't that bad of a show, but it also was not that great of a show. The problem with Love and Marriage Detroit is that, number one, I don't think that, well, for me, I'm going to talk about, obviously for me, nobody else. The characters on the show were not overwhelmingly likable. It didn't matter to me what was going on with them. It didn't matter to me if their friendships worked out or didn't work out. I wasn't really rooting for anybody to do any particular thing. I wasn't even like hoping for anybody's downfall. It just, none of it mattered. None of them mattered to me. Another problem with Love and Marriage Detroit was that I felt like a lot of the storylines were built on very flimsy plots. Everything was based on either he said, she said, assumptions about one another, things that happened off camera that we weren't there to view, for us to give our own opinions about what happened, which goes along under the umbrella of he said, she said. We just have to take them for their word that what they said happened the way it happened. Not really understanding the dynamic of the relationships. Like, I don't know. I probably missed it because a lot of the times, when I'm watching these shows, I'm busy taking notes. And when my head is down and I'm writing, I could have missed a few things. So I didn't know, that Anthony and Brandon have been friends for 20 years because it doesn't come off like these friendships are really that deep. The animosity between Anthony and Brandon was so strong that when they reminded me that they had been friends for 20 years, over 20 years, it kind of gave me pause because I'm like, if y'all been friends for that long, then how did y'all come to this situation where either y'all are lying about one another or you're lying about a situation that happened? So either Anthony was lying about Brandon saying those things about the publicist, or Brandon was completely denying that he said something to Anthony that was actually said, or option 3, which is what Carlos King and your girl Kobe believed, that Anthony and the publicist concocted a storyline to get the publicist on the show for her to make an appearance on the show. So if y'all's friendship runs that deep, why are y'all doing this to one another? How did it come to be that a show was what it took, a week show at that, was what it took to practically break your friendship apart? Like, that just blows my mind. That's why I was surprised that they've been friends for that long, because these people don't act like they've been friends for that long. Maybe they've been associates for 20 years, just like Brandon and Russell. They've been friends for a very long time. During this season, it didn't show. It did not show that these friendships ran that deep. They acted as if, they were just placed together to do a show, or that maybe they were associates in real life. They knew of each other, had friends in common, but were not really that close to one another, because nothing out of all these people in this friend group, nothing just shouted out to me that these people are, longtime friends and they've been through it all together and they're there for each other. Nothing screamed that to me. Anyway, let's get started. So when the episode starts, it starts off where we left off last week, and that's where Carlos King had asked Kobe and Russell if they could continue being friends with Brandon and Christina. Russell said he had no issues moving forward with Brandon. And when it came to Kobe, she started crying because she, was overwhelmed by how her and Christina's friendship had fallen apart so much on the show. I'm assuming that's why she was crying. And when they showed us the clip last week of her crying, I really thought she was crying because of something really, really major. Like she found out that Russell was cheating on her or something. I didn't know she was crying about the breakup of her friendship with Christina. But anywho, so she's crying about that. She really couldn't give an answer. So then Christina ends up getting up from her seat and she goes and she sits down next to Kobe and she's holding Kobe as Kobe is crying and being very apologetic about how their friendship deteriorated on this show over this whole Harper Ray situation. So I guess Christina was crying, Kobe was crying. I guess they've decided that they were going to put the past behind them and move forward. Brandon and Russell will definitely move forward. They got up and they hugged it out. And it seems like that particular friend group with with those four people, they're going to try to work on their friendship. Okay, fine. Moving on from there, they talk about the rivalry between Brandon and Anthony. Anthony had attacked. Now, throughout the season, Anthony kept on attacking Star Factory, saying that Brandon doesn't produce any stars from his music company, the Star Factory. And they kept on, taking digs at each other's career. Brandon said that he doesn't know exactly what Anthony does to make money. Anthony said he's made a cool million easily, and Brandon is still waiting to make his first million. And so they've always have been going this. They have this back and forth rivalry where they're constantly putting each other down as businessmen, which is ironic because Anthony centers his whole existence in bringing up black men and supporting black men and, trying to improve the image of black men. But he was constantly putting down Brandon's business, saying that he was unsuccessful in producing stars. And it was just kind of ironic. His whole mission was to improve the image of the black man and to strengthen the black man as a father, husband, businessman. But he was constantly putting down Brandon. Was it justified for him to put down Brandon? I really don't know. I really don't care. I'm just pointing out the irony of it all. So Anthony says the only reason why he attacked Star Factory was because he says Brandon came for him first by saying that he didn't know how he made his money, questioning how he was making his money, and also implying that Anthony was a trust fund baby. Okay. Christina and Latoya, they only really associated with each other because their husbands were friends. And that definitely showed that there was no real strong bond between Christina and Latoya. Latoya said that she had been warned by people that Christina was a user and that she wasn't very trustworthy. Christina once again wanted Latoya to show her examples because Christina was saying that Latoya treated her differently than the way that she treated Kobe. And it seemed like, that it seemed like Latoya had some type of issue with her. So she kept on asking Latoya, exactly what is it about me that bothers you? And Christina brings up the whole situation between Christina and Kobe, when Kobe reached out to Christina about the whole Harper Ray collab, and Christina never responded to Kobe. And that's the only thing that she can really bring up. And Christina keeps telling her that had nothing to do with you. What have I done to you personally that made you feel the way you feel about me? And of course, once again, for the millionth time, Latoya could give no example of what Christina had done to her directly. She can only give examples of things that Christina had done to other people. Then they talked about the whole publicist issue, the situation where Anthony had said that Brandon had talked smack about the publicist, Brittany. That Anthony said Brandon said that he didn't want to work with Brittany. He thought Brittany was whatever, a whole bunch of negatives. I forgot what he said, but basically Brandon was smack talking about Brittany. He didn't want to work with her. He didn't trust her. He didn't like her, and didn't want nothing to do with her. Brandon denied ever saying anything negative about Brittany. He kind of made it seem like I don't even know her enough to have an opinion about her, good or bad. And I never said those things to Anthony about Brittany. Anthony, on his end, he is like 10 toes down about, yes, you said this. I am telling the truth. I am willing to take a lie detector test that you said these things about Brittany. So as we're going back and forth about that, something else came out about Brittany. Now, when they featured Brittany on the show, I thought she was a credible person. I actually liked Brittany, the publicist. I thought she was kind of credible. And I tended to kind of believe her when she said that Anthony, when she said that, Anthony had said these things that Brandon had said about her. I kind of believed her. Like, yeah, Anthony did say that. That Brandon did say that to Anthony because I thought Brittany was credible. Well, now I don't know. Now I'm totally confused. So when they had all gone out to that weekend retreat, and when Anthony had called Brittany and asked Brittany, did Brandon say these things about you? And I forgot how it went. I think she was confirming that Brandon did say those things that that she was confirming that yes, you told me that Brandon had told you that, he didn't like me and he said all these negative things about me. So Brittany was confirming what Anthony had been saying, that, Brandon came to me with this information. But Christina pointed out at the reunion that there was something else that happened during that call that was never aired. And this is where Christina was trying to prove that Brittany is a flip-flopper. Because Brittany, according to Christina, had told her when they had their meeting, their initial meeting, she said that Brittany had told her that Anthony's goal was to prove that Brandon was a liar, that Anthony had told Brittany that he was going to prove to the world that Anthony was a liar. But then at the retreat, when Brandon confronted publicist Brittany about that comment, she flip-flopped and she said, no, it seemed like to me that Anthony wanted to prove that you were a liar. No longer was she saying that Anthony told me he was going to prove that you were a liar. So when Christina brought that up, that particular scene that never aired, that's when Carlos King began to question, well, maybe Brittany's true intention was to try to get on this show, maybe get some free publicity for her PR company, or trying to get a spot on the show, or whatever the hell she was trying to do. She was trying to somehow get in front of these cameras and make an appearance and a debut on this show. So Carlos King says maybe that was her intention. And then he asked Kobe, what do you think about all of this? Because you're removed from this whole situation. You can look at this from the outside. And Kobe said, ding, 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 ding. Yes, you are correct. I do think that, publicist Brittany was just trying to find a way to get on this show. So then Carlos King suggested that maybe Anthony and Brittany were in cahoots in creating a fake storyline for her to come on the show at the expense of Brandon. Y'all, this was a lot of time and energy spent on something that we were not privy to. We were not privy to a conversation that did or did not happen between Brandon and Anthony. So we're just sitting here watching these three people battle it out. All of this he said, she said. We have no idea. We have nothing to base this on. We have no opinion to base on whether or not is it Brandon that's lying? Is it Anthony that's lying? Is Brittany just trying to get on the show? We don't know, because we weren't privy to any of these conversations. We just have to sit back and watch them argue and go back and forth, not knowing who to believe, because we have nothing to go by. And I don't like it when reality TV shows base a major part of their storyline on something that the audience was never privy to. Something that happened off camera, something that happened years ago. We don't know. We're just relying on what these people are saying, and we don't know who's telling the truth. Like, what's the point of all of this? Especially when there's no third parties to vouch for whether or not this conversation even took place. So that was a complete waste of time and a waste of energy. So, after we get through with the whole Brittany the publicist situation, they talk about the men's movement. They poked fun, Carlos King poked fun at Anthony's man movement and the man movement march. And of course, Brandon had to poke fun at it as well. The only thing that Anthony could do was just take it because I'm pretty sure the internet completely dragged him. So the only thing he could do, he just has to sit there and take the licks, because it was pretty pathetic. You talked so big and bad about the men's movement. You wanted this to be like some kind of like a march on Washington type of thing. A handful of people showed up. You had your little pathetic walk in the park, what you called a march, and it was the end of that. I don't think they even talked about the showcase and Lyrique and Christina, unless I missed it because I was busy taking notes. I have no idea, but it seems like the whole situation with Lyrique and Christina working together years ago, and that bothering Brandon, and is Anthony trying to bring Lyrique into the mix to kind of piss off Brandon because he knows that, there was something going on between Christina and Lyrique. I don't know. All of that, they didn't talk about in the reunion. That's what it seemed like to me, unless I kind of like zoned, sometimes I tend to kind of like, drift off into La La Land when things get kind of boring. Then they talked about Kobe and Russell. Russell did admit that he needs to communicate better with his wife. He said that when he saw himself on television, it really struck him how, Kobe was right. He does not communicate very well, and he needs to be better at that. So they're going to try to fix that. Then they announced that they are expecting baby number 2. So congratulations to Russell and Kobe on their second bundle of joy. And after that, I think that was the end of the reunion. I don't really care if Love and Marriage Detroit comes back. I just don't care. I'm not interested in any of their lives and any of their storylines. It just doesn't make any difference to me whatsoever. Like I said, this whole entire season, these storylines are based on some very flimsy information. Nothing that actually took place on camera. Okay. Just nothing. I'm trying to think of anything that actually happened on camera that was meaningful, that wasn't based on or related to something that took place off camera. And I can't think of anything. There probably was, but I'm just not paying attention because I really don't care. Carlos King talked a lot of mess about the Real Housewives of Atlanta, how this season is really terrible. It's really boring. We got to bring back the OGs. But Mr. King, Love and Marriage Detroit really wasn't giving much of anything either. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it on your way out. Please don't forget to rate the video if you like this content. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.